Hi, PerspectaWeather.com meteorologist Paul Doreen here on Friday, January 10th. A lot to talk about this morning. We have a major storm system to deal with in the central and eastern U.S. over the next few days. Depending on your particular location with respect to the storm track, you could experience heavy rain, severe weather. There's a severe weather threat later today into early tonight across places like the south central states. If you're on the cold side of the storm track to its north and northwest, significant snow and ice is a possibility in places like the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, going all the way into New England by the end of the upcoming weekend. We will focus in on this major storm system that will impact a wide part of the nation over the next few days. But first, before we get to that, I wanted to talk a little bit about the longer range. One of the things this storm will actually do in the I-95 corridor region and all along the Atlantic seaboard is push unusually warm air northward. In fact, looks like it'll easily get up into the 60s this weekend in places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City. Now, there will be some rain, maybe even some strong thunderstorms associated with that warm up, but much warmer conditions for the I-95 corridor region on the warm side of this storm system. But looking ahead down the road in about a week to 10 days or so, there are signs for a pattern change, and it looks like there can be some snow and ice as early as next weekend in portions of the eastern U.S. after a week or so of above normal temperatures. Now, one of the things I'm focused in on over the past several days and certainly over the next few days is what we refer to as the Madden-Julian Oscillation Index. This is an index that kind of tracks a tropical disturbance that propagates along the tropics, and depending on the location of some tropical activity, thunderstorms for example, it really can have an impact worldwide on temperatures and precipitation patterns. This is a forecast map from the European model for the MJO over the next couple of weeks, and depending on the phase, it can have an impact on temperatures in the central and eastern U.S. And the green on this particular map shows the Madden-Julian oscillation going kind of in a counterclockwise motion through phases 4, 5, and 6 over the next week to 10 days or so. These particular phases happen to usually be correlated with warmer than normal conditions in the central and eastern U.S., and indeed, that's what we will experience. However, beyond that point, let's say in a week to 10 days or so, it'll get through those warm phases and tend to close in on this inner circle, which means it'll basically be a weakening tropical signal, and that will likely lead to some kind of a pattern change that will finally allow the colder air masses to come into the eastern U.S. and not only come into the eastern U.S. but be sustained for longer time periods than what we've been accustomed to over the last few weeks. It's one thing to get cold air outbreaks into the eastern U.S., but it's kind of a completely different story to get sustained cold air. That's really when you lead to a period of snow and perhaps ice. And again, that may be coming not next week, but the following week and beyond, if indeed this MJO continues to propagate first through these warm phases and then tends to weaken and move into colder phases during the latter part of the month of January. Now, one last map before we focus in on the upcoming major storm for the weekend, and boy, this is quite an amazing snowfall forecast map now. Now, it's totally in the speculation phase. This is the total snowfall depicted by the 0Z run of the GFS for the next 16 days. This goes way out, 384 hours. Nonetheless, it's quite interesting, and it kind of sends a red flag that something may be changing. Look at this. It has snow forecasted all the way down to the Gulf states, significant snow in the mid-Atlantic region, in the Midwest and Northeast. Of course, some of this will occur over the next few days, but certainly not in the mid-Atlantic region. This is just total speculation at this point, but again, it kind of sends a red flag that there is a potential pattern change coming to the eastern U.S. where it's been warmer than normal over the past few weeks. Well, let's now focus in on this major storm threat coming to the central and eastern U.S. Let's start off with, first of all, Storm Prediction Center forecast maps of the possibility of severe weather, not only today, but we'll look at tomorrow's map And again, today in the south central states, right in this region right here, there will be a chance of not only severe thunderstorm activity, but also isolated tornadoes. All the conditions are coming together. Low-level moisture is pouring northward from the Gulf of Mexico. A vigorous wave of energy in the upper part of the atmosphere, which we'll see in a moment or two, all contributing factors to the potential of a severe weather outbreak this afternoon into the evening. And this tends to shift to the east tomorrow. In fact, let's jump ahead to tomorrow's forecast map from NOAA's Storm Prediction Center. And here it is for Saturday, an enhanced threat down across the deep south, places like Mississippi and Alabama, and even all the way up in the mid-Atlantic region. There can be some strong thunderstorms tomorrow night with that unusual warm air pouring up the Atlantic seaboard. Again, well up in the 60s, places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City tomorrow afternoon, and perhaps on Sunday as well. But unfortunately, with it will come a severe weather threat that is focused on the south central states today and then shifts a little bit to the east on Saturday. Well, in terms of the upper atmosphere, this is from the 6Z run of the GFS. We're looking at the 500 millibar vorticity fields. This is kind of an area, the vorticity represents an area of spin in the upper part of the atmosphere, and that contributes to upward motion down at the lower middle levels of the atmosphere. And here is that wave of energy that will be a major factor in this significant storm system over the next few days. Starting off this morning way down over Mexico, but then it pushes off to the north and east, really consolidates. Again, that will help to contribute to the threat of severe weather down across places like Arkansas and Louisiana this afternoon and tonight, with a strong upward motion combining with low-level moisture and strong winds in the mid and upper parts of the atmosphere as well. This all tends to move to the north and east towards the Great Lakes region. Indeed, that is basic storm track here at the surface as well, from the south central U.S. to the Great Lakes, ultimately moving on into New England by Sunday. That moves on by, and here we are by Sunday afternoon, and already upstream another wave of energy, still an active weather pattern. This storm system will slide on by the eastern states by the end of the week, and it will not be a pattern changer in the eastern U.S. in terms of temperatures. We'll get warm ahead of it on Saturday and stay pretty warm on Sunday as well, and it may back off a little bit in terms of temperatures early next week in the eastern U.S., but still above normal for the next several days. Beyond that, again, we talked up front about a potential pattern change for the eastern U.S. beginning in about a week to 10 days or so. Well, let's now look at the surface forecast maps from last night's 0Z GFS model run. Some rain already showing up over the Midwest, but watch with the development of this storm system here by later on tonight and going into Saturday morning. Here we have strong low pressure over the south central U.S. on the eastern side of Arkansas, over the Tennessee Valley, with that wave of energy moving in overhead. Strong wave of energy. Lots of colors here. The blue represents snow, the purples and pinks, ice. And this could be a very significant ice event for places like Michigan. Notice right here across central Michigan, icing occurring here. We'll kind of focus in on that area a little bit later on in this video discussion here, but watch as this storm system moves up to the north and east. Significant rainfall on its warm side to its south and southeast. Significant snow and ice on its cold side to the north and northwest. So that significant snow will extend from parts of the Midwest all the way to the Great Lakes region and into northern New England. And again, in between the rain and the snow will be an area of significant icing in Michigan, for example. It looks really nasty on Saturday. Meanwhile, in the eastern U.S., look at this, the isobar pattern here. This generally winds flow parallel to the isobars here. In this case, they'll be flowing out of the south or southwest, pushing warm air all the way up along the Atlantic seaboard. I'm sure in some areas there'll be records broken on Saturday afternoon. Again, 65 degrees, easily reachable. D.C., for example, Saturday afternoon. Maybe Philadelphia as well, way above normal for this time of the year. There will also be a noticeable wind out of the south or southwest. And here we go into the evening hours. A frontal system will slide through the eastern seaboard tomorrow night into early Sunday, and that could be associated with some strong thunderstorm activity, even as far north as the mid-Atlantic region. Certainly strong to severe thunderstorm activity that's possible late tomorrow night into the southeastern part of the nation. But look at this significant snow and ice on the cold side of the storm, places like Chicago, and then Michigan, which may have had a significant ice event, followed by accumulating snow, and all the way up into New England. That all moves into the New England area, all in terms of the frozen precipitation on Sunday. Stays relatively warm for this time of the year in the I-95 corridor region, and then that pushes on out by Sunday night and early Monday, but already some moisture starting to gather, and it'll be indeed another rain event, it looks like, by the middle part of next week. This is Tuesday night, and now into Wednesday morning. Still warm in the east for this time of the year. By this time, we'll be talking about the middle part of January, so another rain event possible by the middle part of next week. Well, before we wrap up, let's just kind of focus in on one particular area for this upcoming weekend event that looks like it'll really suffer through some significant icing. Central part of Michigan, and this is just an example. This kind of significant icing will extend all the way from the upper part of the Midwest to New England, but we'll show the conditions that are really setting up, unfortunately, for a significant icing event. The good news is that it's on a Saturday, so these people won't be driving to work on a Saturday. But this is the European model forecast for freezing rain amounts during the day on Saturday. And when you get significant icing in these kind of amounts, that is a major problem. And let's take a look at some of the conditions that will be contributing to this significant icing event in places like Michigan, for example. And here we go. This is kind of an average atmospheric sounding map available at tropicaltidbits.com, but for this particular region where the red box is right here in central Michigan, this is kind of the average of how the upper atmosphere will look on Saturday. And again, it's setting the stage for a significant icing event. One of the things we have on this typical type of sounding plot is the freezing line here, represented by this dashed line right here. And red profile right here represents temperature pattern throughout the atmosphere from the ground level right here all the way up to the upper part of the atmosphere. There's a warm nose here that is actually above freezing in the middle layers of the atmosphere, but notice down near the surface it's at or below freezing. And basically you'll have cold northeast winds with below freezing temperatures at the ground level, but because there's this warm nose of air aloft, the precipitation will form as a liquid until it reaches the ground, then it'll freeze on the surface. And this is a kind of sounding profile that is typical of an icing event, and unfortunately it looks like that'll be the case for Michigan on Saturday. And again, not only Michigan, but it'll extend from portions of the upper Midwest all the way across the Great Lakes into New England by the latter part of the weekend. But a warm nose of air aloft combined with below freezing temperatures at the surface, and that spells trouble in terms of icing. So a lot going on over the next few days from a major storm system, anywhere from heavy rain and severe weather on the warm side of the storm to significant snow and ice on the cold side to its north and northwest. In the I-95 corridor region, it will be unusually warm weather this weekend, and there will be some rain, perhaps some strong thunderstorms, but not a total washout in places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, and temperatures in the 60s. So that's it for now. For PerspectaWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Orion.